Hello everyone. Welcome back to Naruto Fix. Today we have another interesting what if Naruto story. Which is what if Naruto was the weakest until one day he unlocked a power that changed the entire world. Part 1. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy this content. Now, without wasting any time, let's begin. The day Naruto was called useless, something inside him finally broke. Not loudly, not violently, silently. The training ground was filled with laughter. Not the happy kind, but the kind that cuts deep, and at the center of it stood Naruto Uzumaki, bruised, tired, and completely outmatched, his clones failing again, dispersing instantly as if they never existed, and around him, other students whispered, laughed, judged. He's still this bad. How is he even a ninja? Dead last, as always. Naruto clenched his fists, not because he was angry anymore, but because he was used to it. That was worse. From the side, Sasuke Uchiha watched silently, unimpressed, while Sakura Haruno shook her head slightly, disappointed. And in front of them all, Iruka Umino sighed. Naruto. Again. Naruto laughed it off. Fake. Hey, I was just warming up. But no one believed it. Because everyone had already decided who he was. Weak. After training ended, the field emptied quickly, leaving Naruto alone, sitting on the ground, staring at his hands. Why? He whispered. Why can't I get stronger? No answer came. Only silence. That night, Naruto didn't go home. Instead, he walked far away from the village, away from everyone, until he reached a place no one visited. An old ruin. Forgotten. Broken pillars. Cracked ground. And at the center, a strange symbol. Naruto blinked. What is this place? He stepped closer. And the moment his foot crossed the symbol, the world changed. The air froze. Time stopped. What the? Naruto looked around. Everything was still. Except him. And then, a voice. Finally. Naruto froze. Who's there? The darkness shifted. Not around him, but inside the space itself. You took longer than expected. Naruto's heart started racing. Show yourself. A form began to appear. Not human. Not beast. Something else. Ancient. You are the weakest. The voice said calmly. Naruto's fists tightened. Yeah, I know. But weakness. A pause. Is the best vessel. Naruto's eyes widened. What does that mean? The figure stepped closer. Because you have nothing. You can become anything. The ground beneath Naruto began to glow. I offer you a power that will rewrite everything. Naruto hesitated. Why me? The figure smiled faintly. Because no one will expect it. Silence. Because deep down, Naruto knew. He had nothing. No talent. No skill. Only one thing. A dream. Naruto clenched his fist. If I take this, I won't be weak anymore, right? The figure's voice echoed. You won't be human anymore. A pause. But you will never be weak again. Quote. That choice changed everything. Naruto closed his eyes and smiled. Hey, I don't care. His eyes opened. Sharp. I'll take it. The moment he said those words, the symbol beneath him exploded with light. Energy surged into his body. Not like chakra. Something deeper. Something older. Naruto screamed. But not in pain. In transformation. His body trembled. His eyes glowed. The entire ruin began to collapse. And far away, inside Konoha, Hiruzen Sarutobi suddenly stood up. What is that? An enormous pressure filled the air. Not chakra. Something else. Even Kakashi Hatake looked toward the horizon. That's not normal. Back at the ruins, Naruto fell to his knees, breathing heavily. But when he looked up, his eyes were different. Not blue anymore. Something deeper. Something dangerous. What happened to me? The voice echoed one last time. The world will now change. And then, silence. Naruto stood slowly. The weakest ninja was gone. And something else had taken his place. The silence after the transformation felt unnatural. Too still, too heavy, as if even the world itself was unsure of what had just been created, and Naruto Uzumaki Aki slowly pushed himself up from the cracked ground, his body trembling slightly, not from weakness, but from something new, something overflowing inside him, something he didn't understand yet, and as he stood, the air around him shifted subtly, distorting just a little, like reality was reacting to his presence. This isn't chakra, Naruto whispered, staring at his hands, because he could feel it clearly. This power wasn't flowing like chakra. It wasn't something he could mold or control the same way. It was existing, constantly, like a second layer of reality wrapped around him, and when he took a step forward, the ground beneath his foot cracked without force, not from impact, but from pressure alone, and Naruto froze. I didn't even try, he muttered, and for a moment, fear flickered in his eyes, because this kind of power wasn't normal, it wasn't something a weak ninja suddenly gained. This was something else entirely. But then, that fear slowly turned into something else. Curiosity. Hey. A small smile appeared. So this is what it feels like. Naruto clenched his fist, and the air around it distorted instantly. Power. But before he could explore it further, the space behind him shifted. Not violently, but deliberately. Naruto turned sharply. Who's there? And from the shadows of the broken ruins, a figure appeared. Calm. Observing. Not surprised. Because they already knew. Kakashi Hatake stepped forward slowly, his visible eye narrowed, scanning Naruto carefully. Naruto. Naruto blinked. Kakashi-sensei. But something felt off. Kakashi didn't relax. Didn't smile. What happened here? Naruto hesitated. I don't know. That wasn't a lie. But it wasn't the full truth either. Kakashi's gaze sharpened. That energy, he said quietly. It's not chakra. Naruto's hand clenched slightly again. Yeah, I noticed. For a moment, neither of them moved. Because both of them understood. This wasn't normal. Then suddenly, Naruto's power reacted. Not by choice, but instinct. The air around Kakashi warped slightly. Pressure forming. Kakashi's eye widened. Naruto. Control it. Naruto immediately stepped back. I'm not doing it. And that was the problem. Because the power wasn't fully under his control. It responded to him. But it wasn't him. Kakashi's stance changed instantly. More serious. Listen carefully, he said. Whatever this is, you need to suppress it. Quote. Naruto frowned. How? Before Kakashi could answer, the sky above them darkened. Not naturally. Suddenly. Both of them looked up. And what they saw was impossible. The clouds weren't moving. They were breaking. Like glass. What is that? Naruto whispered. Kakashi's expression hardened. That is reacting to you. Naruto froze. Me. The cracks in the sky spread further. And from within, something looked back. Not a person. Not a creature. Something beyond both. Signal detected. A deep voice echoed. Not in the air. Inside their minds. Naruto's eyes widened. You hear that? Kakashi didn't respond. Because he did. Anomaly confirmed. The voice continued. Target. Naruto Uzumaki. The atmosphere collapsed instantly. Pressure beyond anything they had felt before. Kakashi stepped forward slightly. Get behind me. Quote. Naruto didn't move. Because something inside him reacted. Not fear. Not hesitation. But something else. Recognition. You found me, Naruto whispered. Kakashi's eyes widened. Naruto. Naruto stepped forward instead, his power rising. The distortion around him growing stronger. Guess I'm not the only one watching. And in that moment, the sky cracked completely. Because whatever Naruto had awakened was not meant for this world. And now, something from beyond it had noticed. The sky didn't just crack. It opened. Like reality itself had been peeled apart, layer by layer, revealing something that was never meant to be seen. And both Naruto Uzumaki and Kakashi Hatake stood frozen for a split second. Not out of fear, but because their instincts couldn't process what was happening fast enough. From beyond the fracture, something moved. Not a body. Not a shape. A presence. Dimensional barrier. Breached. The voice echoed again, heavier this time, more aware. Naruto's eyes narrowed. You're looking for me, aren't you? Kakashi turned sharply toward him. Naruto. Don't engage. But Naruto didn't step back. Didn't hesitate. Because deep inside, that new power responded. Like it had been waiting. Anomaly response detected. The crack in the sky widened further, spreading across the horizon like shattered glass, and the pressure dropped so suddenly that even breathing felt different, heavier, unnatural. Kakashi's Sharingan spun rapidly. This isn't just dangerous, this is catastrophic. But Naruto took another step forward. Then I guess I'm the cause of it. The ground beneath him fractured again. Not from force, but from existence itself bending around him. Good. Naruto said quietly. Now I can see what this power really is. That sentence alone made Kakashi tense. Naruto, listen to me. This isn't training. This isn't a fight, you understand. Naruto glanced at him. For a second, he looked like the same old Naruto. Then, that expression changed. Not evil. Not cold. Just different. I never understood anything before either, he said calmly. That didn't stop me. Quote. And then, he raised his hand. Not forming a jutsu. Not gathering chakra. Just raising it. And the moment he did, the crack in the sky reacted violently. Energy surged downward. Not like lightning. Not like chakra. Something else entirely. Kakashi moved instantly. Naruto. Move. But Naruto didn't. Because the energy wasn't attacking him. It was connecting. The moment it touched him, everything went white. Naruto opened his eyes. But he wasn't in the ruins anymore. He stood in a vast, empty space. Endless. Dark. So you came yourself. Naruto said quietly. In front of him, something existed. Not fully visible, but undeniably there. You are the anomaly. The voice said. Naruto tilted his head slightly. And you're, what? The owner of this power. Incorrect. A pause. We are the observers. Naruto frowned. Observers. We monitor worlds. And eliminate deviations. Silence. Because that one sentence explained everything. Naruto smirked slightly. So I'm a problem. You are beyond acceptable limits. Naruto cracked his knuckles. Yeah, I get that a lot. Quote. Back in the real world. Kakashi watched as Naruto stood completely still, surrounded by that strange energy, his body frozen, but the pressure around him increasing rapidly. Naruto. He muttered. What did you connect to? Quote. The sky above continued to fracture. Worse than before. Because now, it wasn't just reacting. It was opening fully. Back in that void. Naruto stepped forward. So what now? The presence responded. We erase you. Quote. Naruto smiled. Not scared. Not angry. Excited. Then come try. And in that moment, the weakest ninja challenged something beyond worlds. And this time, there was no going back. Because Naruto wasn't just changing his fate anymore. He was about to change the rules of existence itself. The moment those words left his mouth, the void itself reacted. Not with anger, not with emotion, but with something far more terrifying, acknowledgement. And Naruto Uzumaki stood there, facing something that didn't belong to any world he knew, instead of fear. His expression remained steady, because for the first time in his life, he wasn't the weakest person in the room anymore, he was the center of it. Engagement authorized. The presence shifted, not moving, but existing differently. And suddenly, pressure hit. Not from one direction, not from above or below, from everywhere. Naruto's body trembled slightly. Not from pain, but from resistance, as if reality itself was trying to push him out, to reject him entirely, and for a moment, even he felt it. TCH. His foot slid back slightly. So this is your power. Correction. The voice echoed again. This is containment. Naruto's eyes sharpened instantly. You're trying to suppress me. No response. Because the answer was obvious. The space around him tightened further, invisible pressure crushing inward, trying to erase his presence, not destroy, but delete, like he never existed. And for a split second, Naruto remembered something. The academy. The laughter. The word. Weak. His fist clenched. Not anymore. Boom. The pressure shattered. Not slowly. Not with effort. Instantly. A shockwave tore through the void, distorting even that endless space, and Naruto stood there, unmoved now, his energy street. Abilizing. Not wild. Not overflowing, but controlled in a way that even surprised him. Oh, he muttered. So that's how it works. Because now he understood. This power wasn't chakra. It wasn't something he used. It was something he was recalibrating. The presence said. For the first time. There was a pause. A delay. Naruto smirked. You're adjusting. Silence. But that silence was enough. Hey, so even you can't keep up. Quote. Back in the real world. Kakashi Hatake stepped back slightly, his Sharingan struggling to track what was happening, because Naruto's body was still there, but the energy around him was no longer stable, it was pulsing, syncing with something beyond. This isn't just power. Kakashi muttered. This is something else entirely. The cracks in the sky spread faster now. Because the barrier wasn't just breaking. It was being overridden. Back in the void, Naruto stepped forward again. This time, nothing stopped him. So what happens if I push this further? The presence responded instantly. Do not proceed. Naruto raised an eyebrow. That sounded like a warning. Quote. It is. A pause. Further expansion will destabilize this world. Naruto blinked. This world. And for the first time, he looked back. Not physically, but mentally. And he saw it. Konoha. The people. Everything. Connected. Oh. His expression changed slightly. So if I go all out. A pause. Everything breaks. Silence. Because that was the truth. Naruto scratched his head lightly. Man. That's inconvenient. Quote. But then. He smiled. Not recklessly. But knowingly. Good thing I don't need to go all out. And in the next moment. He moved. Not fast. Not like a ninja. But like space itself shifted to follow him. And before the presence could react. Naruto was already there. Face to face. Got you. The void trembled. Because for the first time. The observers were being touched. And that was something that had never happened before. For a moment, something impossible happened. The void reacted. Not to destroy, not to erase, but to pull back. Because Naruto Uzumaki had just done something no one, no being, no entity, no observer, had ever done before. He reached them. Contact confirmed. The voice, once steady and absolute, now carried something new. Uncertainty. Naruto smirked slightly. Yeah, I thought so. Because now he understood something even bigger than the power itself. These observers weren't invincible. They were just beyond. And now, Naruto had stepped into that same space. You're not gods, he said calmly. You're just higher up. Silence. Deep. Then, the entire void shifted violently. Reclassification required. Threat level. Unknown. Naruto's eyes sharpened. Hey, now we're talking. Suddenly, the space around him fractured again. But this time, not like before. It wasn't trying to erase him. It was trying to adapt. Multiple layers of reality overlapped, twisting around Naruto, trying to analyze him, define him, limit him. But each time they tried, his existence pushed back, rejecting every rule placed on him. You can't define me, Naruto said quietly. Because I don't fit your system. The pressure surged again. Stronger. Smarter. Not brute force, but calculation. And for the first time, Naruto felt it. Resistance that matched him. Now this is a fight. He stepped forward again. But this time, the void responded instantly. Barriers formed. Distortions clashed. Space bent. And Naruto stopped. Not because he was blocked, but because he realized something. You're not just trying to stop me. A pause. You're learning me. Silence. Which confirmed it. Naruto exhaled slowly. Then I gotta finish this before you catch up. Back in the real world. Kakashi Hatake dropped to one knee slightly, the pressure becoming overwhelming now, his Sharingan barely able to stay active as the sky above continued to shatter completely. Naruto. He whispered. What are you becoming? Because this wasn't just power anymore. This was evolution. And it was happening too fast. Back in the void, Naruto closed his eyes for a moment. Not to rest. To focus. Because now, he wasn't just reacting. He was choosing. All right, he said quietly. Let's see what happens. His eyes opened. And for the first time, that power didn't just flow. It aligned. Perfectly. When I control it. Boom. The entire void exploded outward. Not destroyed, but rewritten. Lines of reality bent. Rules shattered. Limits broke. And in the center of it all, Naruto stood. Calm. Stable. Untouchable. The observers went silent. Because now, they weren't dealing with an anomaly anymore. They were facing something new. Something that shouldn't exist. New classification. A pause. Entity acknowledged. Naruto smiled. Took you long enough. And in that moment, the weakest ninja stopped being part of the world. And became something that could change it entirely. The silence that followed that acknowledgement wasn't empty. It was watching, measuring, waiting to see what Naruto Uzumaki would do next. Because for the first time, the observers were no longer in complete control, and Naruto stood there in that endless void, calm, steady, his presence no longer unstable but perfectly aligned with that strange power, as if he had finally synced with something far beyond chakra, far beyond anything a shinobi was meant to wield. So now what? Naruto said casually. No fear. No hesitation. You called me an anomaly. Now I'm an entity. A pause. What's the difference? The void shifted slightly. Not violently. But carefully. An anomaly is corrected. A brief silence. An entity is observed. Naruto smirked. So I leveled up. No response. But the meaning was clear. Naruto stepped forward slowly, looking around the endless space, trying to understand it now, not as an enemy, but as something he could interact with, something he could change. You said you monitor worlds, right? Correct. Naruto's eyes narrowed slightly. Then you've seen everything. A pause. All the pain, all the wars, all the people who died. Silence. Observed. Naruto clenched his fist slightly. And you did nothing. That wasn't anger. That was realization. The void responded. Intervention creates instability. Naruto laughed lightly. Yeah. A pause. Then what do you call me? Quote. Silence. Because he was right. He was instability. And yet, he existed. Naruto's expression sharpened. Then I'll be your instability. The void reacted again. Not aggressively. But alert. Intent registered. Naruto raised his hand slowly. I'm going back. Back to the real world. Back to Konoha. And I'm going to change things. The presence responded instantly. Warning. Interference will accelerate collapse. Quote. Naruto shrugged slightly. Things were already broken. A pause. I'm just fixing them my way. Back in the real world. Kakashi Hatake could barely stand now, the pressure reaching its peak as Naruto's body began to glow brighter, the energy around him stabilizing into something completely different from before. He's coming back, Kakashi muttered. But something's different. The sky above began to close slowly. But not because it healed. Because something was leaving. Back in the void. Naruto turned one last time. You gonna stop me? Silence. Long. Then. Number. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Huh. Observation will continue. A pause. Your existence will determine outcome. Naruto smiled. Good. Then watch closely. Quote. And in the next moment, he disappeared. The void collapsed behind him. Back in the ruins. Naruto's eyes snapped open. The pressure vanished instantly. The sky sealed. The world returned. But it didn't feel the same. Naruto stood there silently. Kakashi looked at him carefully. Naruto. Naruto didn't answer immediately. Because now, he could see it. Everything. Not just chakra. Not just people. But the structure of the world itself. Hey. A slow smile appeared. So this is how everything works. Kakashi's expression tightened. Naruto. What did you do? Naruto looked at him. Calm. But completely changed. I didn't just get stronger. A pause. I got the ability to change everything. And far beyond them. The observers watched. Silently. Because now, the weakest ninja had returned. But he wasn't weak anymore. He wasn't even just a ninja. He was something else entirely. And whatever he chose to do next would decide the fate of the entire world. The wind returned. Soft. Normal. As if nothing had happened. But everything had changed. Naruto Uzumaki stood quietly in the ruins, no longer trembling, no longer confused, his presence now calm, controlled, and far beyond what it once was. No explosions. No chaos. Just silence. And that silence was heavier than any battle. A few steps away, Kakashi Hatake slowly straightened, still watching him carefully, still trying to understand what had just happened, but even with the Sharingan, he couldn't fully read him anymore. Naruto. Kakashi said quietly. What are you now? Naruto didn't answer immediately. Because the truth was complicated. He looked at his hand. Opened it slowly. And for a brief moment, The space around it bent slightly, then returned to normal. I'm still me, Naruto said. A pause. Just not the same. Kakashi's gaze didn't soften. Because he understood. That answer meant everything. And nothing. Naruto looked toward Konoha in the distance. The village. The people. The life he always wanted. I used to think getting stronger would fix everything, he said quietly. But now, a pause. I can change everything. The weight of those words hung in the air. Because power like that wasn't just strength, it was responsibility, danger, choice. Kakashi stepped forward slightly. Then what will you do? Quote. Naruto smiled faintly. Not childish. Not reckless. Different. I'll decide that myself. And that answer was enough to worry even Kakashi. Far beyond their world, the observers remained silent, watching, waiting. Because now, they weren't monitoring a weak ninja anymore. They were watching a variable that could rewrite reality itself. Back in the ruins, Naruto turned. Let's go, Kakashi sensei. Kakashi paused for a second, then followed. Because no matter what Naruto had become, he was still someone worth watching. As they walked back toward the village, the sky looked normal. The world looked the same. But beneath it all, something had shifted. Because the weakest ninja was gone, and in his place stood someone who could change the fate of everything. Not tomorrow, not someday, but soon.